One thing has become very clear about Dragon Age The Veilguard. With each showing, you become more and more confused, and you get a slightly to very different impression of what the game is going to be like. What do I mean by this? Well, we can go back to the very original reveal trailer, the one that resembled nothing so much as a Disney trailer for a film, or perhaps Saturday morning cartoons, and the vast majority of people were either disappointed or somewhat horrified. Then they showed the initial gameplay with Rook at a very low level in the city of Minrathous, and people, myself included, had to in fact revise their position and their opinion of what they saw in the initial reveal trailer. It wasn't perfect, but it was noticeably better. Then they showed off some warrior gameplay, and it looked okay for the most part, and I of course had mixed impressions because I'm not really a fan of the button mashy combat, but it looked fairly consistent with what we saw in terms of combat in the second presentation. Then a major developer and the director walked us through mage combat and showed off a little bit of the Fade where your base resides. And that was the last showing that I had commented on. I thought it was the worst showing to date, as I stated in that video. The mage combat looked terrible, and the character models looked terrible as well. And now BioWare has graced us with yet another showing, this time of skill trees as well as upgrades, weapon upgrades, how you upgrade equipment, this sort of thing, in addition to showing us some rogue combat. Now what they showed us in this latest reveal looks significantly better, in my humble opinion, than the previous showing, especially in terms of the combat. So despite my observation that there is a slightly different impression with each reveal, there is some consistency. The consistent stuff definitely comes down to character models, as I've mentioned a few times. They just look like they're made of Play-Doh. The rigging is off, the eyes are dead, they just don't look very good. So it's safe to assume that once the game comes out, you will have to on some level accept that the characters look this way. They don't look very good, and a defense you'll hear frequently from people who are highly enthusiastic about Veilguard is that BioWare was never particularly good with facial animations. That may be partially true, but it's a question of degree. And in this case, from the little we've seen, the facial animations, the lip syncing just seems off. So let's get that out of the way. The characters don't look good. This, of course, does beg the question as to what the character creator is all about. Is it as magisterial and amazing as they claim? A number of people have claimed that their character creator rivals that of Dragon's Dogma 2. Now, for the record, I have not played Dragon's Dogma 2. Many people have confirmed that the character creator was possibly the best feature of the game, singularly impressive and essentially unrivaled. And we do need to wait for an opportunity to see the character creator in action, and obviously upon release, use it ourselves. But I find it very strange indeed that the characters and the companions all look like this, and we're told simultaneously that they have been created with none other than their much vaunted character creator. On this point in particular, I smell something rotten in the Kingdom of Denmark. So I think it's safe to say, at least in this case, based on the information and the visuals we've seen, that the characters are not going to look very good. And whilst you might have a lot of flexibility in terms of options in their character creator, the final outcome, the final output of the character creator might be a bit wonky. Your own protagonist, Rook, might have that uncanny look that makes all the other characters look so wooden and stiff. I'm just speculating here, but I do think we can come to terms with this facet of the game. The characters will not look good. But this latest reveal, of course, was not about the characters. It was about upgrades, combat, and skill trees. Here there are a number of things to be said. One thing that you've seen in a number of their reveals, and I would say it was most apparent in this reveal, although this is a single-player game, it's very much built off of the skeleton of a multiplayer game. You see it very strongly in the UI, for example. And you see it above all in the flashy combat. Although I myself don't play MMOs, I have it both on good authority from people who regularly play MMOs and my own eyes that the combat is very, very reminiscent of MMOs. And this is of course logical because up until recently, it was not a single player game. Now I'm trying to be neutral about this in particular because this isn't the end of the world. And especially with respect to the combat, it doesn't look bad per se. It's really a question of taste here. Do you like the flashy MMO-esque style of combat? Or do you prefer something that is more traditional in the RPG genre? And this really comes down to what you prefer in terms of your personal tastes. They're clearly attempting to attract a wider audience, because most people are and would be more reactive and more appreciative of the MMO style of combat, at least in the younger generations. What stuck out to me, however, more so than anything else, was the skill tree. Now, I haven't played MMOs per se, but I have played a number of action RPGs, Grim Dawn, Diablo 2, this sort of thing. And the skill tree very strongly resembles that of an action RPG. You have all the upgrades that you would expect from this sort of game in this type of genre. They mentioned, for example, in the video, plus 10% necrotic damage. Many action RPGs have this type of upgrade, plus X% of whatever and whatever element or type of attack you're doling out. Its architecture and branching structure also resembles very strongly that of an action RPG. Again, this is a matter of taste, but it's very evident that they have moved on almost entirely from the original RPG formula, best seen on display and incarnated in Dragon Age Origins. I think it's still possible to have fun with this system, even thoroughly so, but you have to accept it for what it is. Now, the rogue combat looks significantly better than the mage combat. Very flashy, very quick, what you would expect of an action game of this type of genre, and specifically of a dual-wielding rogue. I think I've made my peace with this. This is going to be an action game, basically, and that's okay. It is what it is. But I do have concerns regarding the companions. Something that concerns me, and something that another YouTuber, the eminent Slandered of Slandered Gaming, a great RPG enthusiast and excellent channel, expressed his concern, and I expressed my similar concern here, that the companions don't do a whole lot. They hang around, and everything based on what they've shown us so far seems to be very strongly predicated on combos. Combo this, combo that. So there's a very strong focus on combos, and I get that. Combos were strongly evident and at play in Mass Effect 3, either tech combos or biotic combos, but it is concerning to think that the companions do little to no damage whatsoever. It's hard to tell based on the footage we've seen. But seen in the context I just described, that is, an action game, maybe with some RPG elements, and a game that's predicated upon a combination of MMO elements and action RPG elements in terms of skill trees, and even upgrades, I think this could be quite good if you like that sort of thing. If you have no problem whatsoever with their move away from being an RPG and their transformation into a pure action game / action RPG, this still could be good. It really depends on your taste. It certainly is not my taste. However, it's still possible I might have fun with the combat. I'm going to be playing a Dwarf Warrior, probably a Reaver, though I'm not sure yet, and I'm open-minded about how this might feel in terms of actual gameplay. I do have a final concern, though, because I play on PC exclusively, and if the movement and the actions require a particular kinetic manipulation, if you will, I'm worried this game might be optimized for consoles and not for mouse and keyboard on PC. Now that sounds like a shocking statement, but I don't think it's that unreasonable concern. You see the fast movement, the way you have to twitch back and forth, and typically for something like this, controller is better than mouse and keyboard. And if it turns out that this game plays very poorly on mouse and keyboard, I probably will not play it. I have a principle basically, if a controller is required, I'm not going to play the game. It's one of the few things I'm stubborn about. So at this stage, I think we have a pretty good picture of what this game is. It's an action game with RPG elements, heavily inspired by MMOs and action RPGs to a lesser degree. It probably didn't have the biggest budget, because as I mentioned in the previous video, it has strong AA vibes, and although the environments look very nice, the characters look wooden stiff and made of Play-Doh. I think this game could easily turn out to be average or slightly above average in the final analysis. We still have almost 2 months to go, and I think the big thing we really need to wait for at this stage is the character creator in action. If there's a lot of flexibility and many options in the character creator, but the output of the character creator makes your character look like Play-Doh, makes their eyes look dead, and gives your rook terrible facial animations and bad lip sync, it doesn't matter if they are 10 million options in the character creator, because the final product will look like crap. Recall the way the Kunari Rook looked in the previous video. To put it mildly, it looked like he suffered from some sort of congenital cranial condition, and he looked like a far cry from previous Kunari models, even those in Inquisition, which, frankly speaking, looked a lot better than he did. So the character creator, let's see what that looks like, and let's see the final output of the character creator, and then we'll have most of the puzzle pieces. Of course, the final puzzle piece is the released game, and I will reserve final judgment for when I've actually played the game, in any event. If you like my takes, and you like my content, you can leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe. It's much appreciated, as it really helps out the channel, and I will check you out next time. Take care.